So I'm Tracy Frisch. I'm the founder of the Clean Air Action Network of Glens Falls, New York, which we founded in March 2019. And then 6 months later, Neil Seldman of the Institute of Local Self-Reliance came and gave a talk and a workshop on zero waste planning. And that put and after that, our committee was up and running, and we've been meeting for a year and a half and coming up with lots of ideas and having some successes in Warren County, where Glens Falls is located. Reuse is something that many of us were interested in. We had this webinar is a sequel. The first webinar took place on April 7th with um, 4 or 5 of the leading and repair programs from around the country. A recording is available, and if you want handouts from that, you can ask me. Um, so, and we're hoping that everyone who comes here that's really interested in reuse and repair also has an opportunity at some point to watch that webinar, to watch the recording. And you can find it on the Clean Air Action Network YouTube channel if you can't find it on our website, cleanairactionnetwork.org. So we are a grassroots nonprofit with no government funding. In fact, currently no outside funding other than donations from our members and supporters. And all of you can donate if you are so inclined on our website. There's a donate button in the right upper corner. So all that's taken care of. I just want to tell you a little bit. So after our first webinar, it sort of dawned on us that people needed some nuts and bolts help on how to go from these great concepts and these great models to what they can do from where they're at, how they could get started. So that was Neil Seldman organized the first webinar. I organized this one in collaboration with Neil. And I just want to give you a little sense of who's here today and encourage you to network in the chat. So we have a lot of people that were here at the first webinar, but also many people who were not. We have people, more than 2/3 of the people are from the state of New York, but we also have people from Michigan, North Carolina, California, Maryland, Washington, and Hawaii. Many people from Hawaii. I wonder what time it is. I don't even know if they're going to come because it might be pretty late at night in Hawaii. I don't know. We also, in New York, we have a lot of people from the Capital Region and the Upper Hudson, so from the Greater Hudson Valley, and some people from the Binghamton area, where one of our presenters is from. We'll be talking about how they're getting started. Many of the people are interested in starting a reuse or repair business or nonprofit. We have people from economic development, workforce development, and job training, and many zero waste advocates and some recycling coordinators. And so what I want to encourage everyone to do is, if you're not a presenter, because we're going to know who you are as the presenter, if you're not a presenter, please put in the chat where you're from. Your name will automatically appear. Where you're from, if you're from an organization or business, and what you're looking for. If you're trying to connect with others from your area to start something, put that in, and maybe put in your email. I can send people the chat. But if you're looking to network, unfortunately, we do not have time in a 90-minute Zoom meeting to facilitate networking except in the chat. I also want to ask if anyone has objections to sharing your name, email, organization, and where you're from. That is the area you're from. Because I will not share your address and phone number, but we will share your email unless you have objections. And you can personally direct message me in the chat, or you can email me, or you could just put it in the chat. We will honor that, but otherwise we will share that so that people who don't have an opportunity to network today, maybe because of their technology or who are watching the recording will be able to connect with people locally, because our goal in this is to facilitate startups in the Upper Hudson area, which is Warren, Washington, and Saratoga counties, for those of you who are from New York, and also in the Greater Capital Region. If people get together, or people are able to start something up as a result of being here and they're from other parts of the country or other parts of the state, we are thrilled, but that is not something that we can follow up with. I should mention, we also have people from New Zealand, Uganda, and South Africa who have registered. So thank you for everyone's interest, and I want to turn it over to Neil, unless I forgot something, Neil.
I think you covered it, and I want to thank you and Abby for the technical assistance. My name is Neil Seldman. I work with the Institute for Local Self-Reliance on their Waste to Wealth initiative. We work very closely with our compost initiative, Brenda Platt, my colleague. This focus of this webinar is of course reuse. And as Tracy said, there's a real boom in interest in reuse for a number of reasons. One is waste reduction. Two is returning products rather, to active reuse in the economy. Good jobs, got jobs that pay living wages and actually can help hard to employ people who've experienced incarceration. Reduce recidivism. We have examples from electronic reuse organizations across the country, building deconstruction companies across the country who are recruiting workers and training workers from these hard to employ backgrounds with enormous success. I'll just give you one number. In 2003, Second Chance in Baltimore, building deconstruction started with 6 workers. They now have over 200, 90% of whom were recruited from what we used to call the welfare rolls. Now they're the TANF rolls. These are folks who've had a hard time getting skills and permanent employment. The impact on their families is quite obvious when you are making a living wage with health insurance. Just to name a few excellent resources, there's Reuse Minnesota. There's the BMRA, Building Materials Reuse Association. There's an incredible book out by John Wackman, the late John Wackman, and Elizabeth Knight, who are from the New York Capital Region. The Repair Revolution, which is both a how-to and a why-to, and it's just chock full of good information. Having said all of that, we are poised to add to our library of reuse presentations that have been building up from all over the country with a terrific set of speakers today. I'm going to name them and then call on them in the order that Tracy laid out. First, we're going to hear from Diane Cohen, who helped start and now runs a very vibrant reuse network in Ithaca, New York, Finger Lakes Reuse. And I happen to know that they're linked up with communication and exchange with St. Vincent de Paul of Lane County, Oregon, which is another iconic reuse organization that we've been networking with. After Diane, we're going to talk to Tom Longstreth, who is associated with another iconic organization. I remember it as Recycle North from years ago, but we are now with, is it Reuse Vermont, Tom? You're the new name?
It's a Resource and Nonprofit Community Enterprise is the full name, but you know, Resource is fine, and my wife still calls it Recycle North too.
Okay, well, she's old-fashioned like I am. Great. Then we're going to talk to some economic development experts from the Capital Region. We're happy to have Danny Delaney from the Adirondack North Country Association. We also have the executive director of the Community Fund of the Capital Region, the executive director, Linda McFarland. And finally, we have an aspiring reuse entrepreneur. We will be talking with Inspire Broome County, New York, which is where Binghamton is located. And we will be hearing from Ellen Taberi. Unless there are any other housekeeping questions, let's proceed. And I am going to ask Diane Cohen from Finger Lakes Reuse to get us started. Each presenter will talk for 8 minutes. I'm going to give them a nudge, a verbal nudge at 6 minutes, so they'll be able to wind down their presentation. And we'll hold questions till the very end, and Tracy and I will monitor the questions and chats and get questions to people who can provide those answers. So, Diane, would you mind getting started?
Sure. Thanks, Neil.
Thanks,
Thanks,
you.
Tracy. Thanks, everyone, for being here today. Can you see the screen okay?
Yep.
Okay, great. Oops. So I'm here to give a very high-level overview of Finger Lakes Reuse. I'm the executive director. As Neil said, I was one of the founders. And with 8 minutes, that's really not a lot of time to go into great detail, but I'm very interested in people who are interested in this topic. And so you'll see my information, and please do reach out. Would love to see more reuse happen in every community. I'm originally from the Albany area, so maybe there's some people in that area. Would love to see something happening there. Like everybody understands, reuse has profound impacts, and I believe reusable materials are a vast potential wealth of resources for every community, and really can play a key part in the emerging circular economy that people are talking about. I know it's not traditionally measured in the way economic development looks at our economy. The whole reuse sector tends to be overlooked, but hopefully we can start to change that. And there's the triple bottom line impacts, not just the economic and environmental, but the social impacts. I think that social healing can happen, which we all know our country could use a little bit of. So what I see in our reuse centers, it has been exciting, the diversity and people coming together to solve a problem. There's all sorts of different business models, but we are a 501c3 charitable nonprofit organization. We were founded in 2007 with a $700 investment from our founding board members, and we opened our first community reuse center in 2008. Our mission is based on the triple bottom line to enhance community, economy, and environment through reuse. Our goals are to reduce waste, relieve poverty, and teach skills through reuse activities. And I will say that poverty relief, I learned from Tom Longstreth many, many years ago that you can have that as part of an environmental organization. And that really opened up my mind. And so this collaborative approach and sharing of information, I'm really glad to be here with Tom today. The strategies we employed, we early on did some research and what would motivate you to reuse. Convenience and affordability were cited over and over. So we made sure to design our business that way. Visibility, I learned in a workshop like this, you can't pay enough in marketing money for the visibility of a physical location on a busy thoroughfare. We've always taken a strong business approach, and we've prioritized collaboration from the beginning. Who can we partner with? We now have 78 employees. We pay a living wage, including health benefits. And I believe Tracy sent around an email with links to the links that are in this presentation, and what is a living wage, et cetera. Reuse is resilient. We've been resilient. I think we exceeded $1 million for the first time in 2018. Then we got to 1.5 million in 2019, and we did it again in 2020 in spite being closed for 2.5 months last year. And our donations were shut down for almost 6 months. And this year we're expecting to exceed $2 million in sales. We've been averaging 28% growth every year since our beginning. So a lot of growth in this industry. What do we sell? We try to do everything. We try to make it a one-stop drop. We originally started with furniture, household goods, and building materials, and then we expanded into computers and electronics. And then Terry McDonald out in St. Vincent de Paul, Lane County, Oregon said, why aren't you selling clothes? Why aren't you selling books? And I said, I thought that they were being well served here. And he said, if they're hitting the landfill, they're fair game, aren't they? So we expanded into that, and it's been a wild adventure. It's definitely, there's a lot of it, and we're overwhelmed by it. And I'm glad we're doing it. I'm not going to go too long on this slide, but these are photos of our storefronts. Upper right has the two storefronts side by side. We started in the one on the left, expanded into the one on the right in 2010. 2015, we bought the Ithaca Review Center, so we own that building down on the bottom. And that little floor plan in the middle, the two in the upper green, the right-hand green rectangle are the two storefronts that we started in the one on the left. And then that larger number one, we just expanded into that one in 2020. And that's in the upper left photo. So that was probably confusing. We've been growing like crazy. So it took us 5 years to earn our first $1 million cumulatively. And then the second 5 years, we earned a little over 3 million. In our third 5 years, we're in year 4 now. We're on track to exceed 8 million and probably get closer to exceeding 9 million by the end of that. So tremendous business growth. And what is this community reuse center model? This is the type of thing that we would love to, if you agree to a certain set of very basic ethics, paying your workers fairly, in reinvesting locally the revenues that you generate. We would love to really share what we've learned as freely as we possibly can. It's unique, it's innovative. We've definitely borrowed components from Resource in Vermont and from other places all over the country who have shared components of what they're doing so that we could get up and running. How are we different from traditional thrift? We have a waste reduction focus in our mission statement, and we're really interested in building skills. We take a people first approach. I think reuse is I think community reuse centers can be a key conduit for the circular economy. And this link here is to an online business plan template that you could go through step by step, and we can help you along the way on that. I will caution there is a button you can click that says, are you interested in a consult? That's broken, and I'm not getting emails for that right now. And I don't have a web developer who can get in there and fix it. So send me an email as well if you look at the tool and you want a consultation. Justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. I like this acronym because I can remember it. Diversity, equity, inclusion. It's been, as an executive director in a progressive town, that's been part of my educational development in my role for many years. We've really worked hard to make our organization as inclusive as possible. But what I've really learned in the last year is decision-making is one of those structural things. When people talk about structural racism or structural inequity, decision-making in our institutions is something that we can work on. And so I put a resource here. I won't go into it now, but just want you to know that this is something we're actively working on.
2 more minutes, Diane.
Thank you, Neil. So in addition to the 78 employees that we have, or 56 FTEs, more than 100 people have gone through our job training program with good results, and 20 of our employees were on public assistance and are now long-term employees. We're really proud of that.
Great.
We give materials away. We've $114,000 our prices, which is less than half of what you can get it for new. So that's $250,000 of direct support we've given to our neighbors. Repair is, you can have repair cafes right in the reuse centers. That's just a quick look. And our Kids Fix repair cafes have been really popular. A quick staff photo of when we could all be together a couple of years ago. Couple more points, and then I'll wrap up. We've got, we pay $96 a ton to truck stuff 40 miles away to landfills. We are selling this stuff through our cash registers for $2,000 to $3,000 a ton. I'm trying to give you guys points. If you're trying to start up, you could fold some of these things into your grant applications. Also, feel free to use these numbers of our growth. The yellow line here is the fundraising that we've done, and the blue line is the sales and service fees over the years. It's kind of an anomaly the last 2 years because we got PPP funding, about $600,000 worth, but we've averaged $250,000 to $350,000 in fundraising a year, and you can see that it's leveraged continued growth. And then I'll add that each time we expanded, our growth has shot up as well. So there's some information there on our expansions and how that impacted our revenues. I think reuse is going to play an increasingly important role in preserving value. People saw signs like this last year. At the same time, we were partnering with the startup Cortland Reuse, deconstructing a house. So those photos on the right, the lower right is flooring that we harvested. In the upper right, we were partnering with the J.M. Murray Center, working with people with disabilities. They were thrilled to have something purposeful to do. They were having a hard time finding programs to plug into. So it was win-win-win. And I plugged in a couple of the circular economy and the sustainable development goals. Those are both things that should be cited when you're talking about why reuse will be important to your community and you're trying to raise interest for that. Here's just a sampling of our collaborations. Go with that quickly. Here are our major funders and supporters over the years. We couldn't have done any of this without them. And thank you very much for caring about this issue.
Well, we certainly do. And Diane, that was a great presentation. I love the way you weaved into your presentation the help you got from existing companies and the help you're sharing with others. So it's a nice statement about reuse and a nice statement about your approach to it. I have one quick question. What did you pay in sales tax last year?
Oh,
just a ballpark figure.
I think it's 100 and something thousand. I remember I've calculated that $92,000 is going to our county. I'm trying to remind them of that as I try to get them to
of course.
A little municipal investing.
Yeah, well, I like to mention that because reuse is one of the few parts of our overall recycling composting that actually pays sales tax, which of course the city and state certainly appreciates. All right, we're going to go to an iconic person and an iconic program. Tom Longstreth, I believe you're in Burlington, Vermont. Tom, you may be muted.
Sorry, I started sharing my screen and then couldn't get back to the unmute button. So I think I'll try that in a different order this time. I think I'm unmuted now, and I'll try to share my screen. I'm also gonna, figuring that we have only 8 minutes, I'm gonna just try to zip through a few slides on the theory that a picture is worth 1,000 words. But I look forward to the chance to, answer questions later in the program. So my focus is going to be on the people as well as the materials, and really it's the connection between the things and the people that I think is what makes the reuse so powerful, is that it really creates opportunities to invest in people. Resources mission, and again, for some of you out there know us as Recycle North. That's how we were founded in 1991. We became Resource, a nonprofit community enterprise, in 2009, partly because another sister nonprofit was about to the roof had collapsed. We were talking with them, figuring out how our construction training program might be able to fix their roof, and it became apparent through that conversation that they needed more support than that. And so we absorbed them into our organization, committed to expanding to the central Vermont area where they were from. And that precipitated a name change. But so our mission is empowering individuals and strengthening Vermont communities through workforce development, poverty relief, and environmental stewardship. And what I'm going to try to explain is just how we connect the things and the people, identify where those synergies are between these three parts of that mission. We have facilities in Barre, Burlington, Williston, and Hyde Park, Vermont. So, each facility is within about 45 miles of the other. So management is relatively simple because of the reasonable driving distances. And that was before the whole COVID thing, which, we've all become trained to manage through technology these days and travel less, which is good for the environment. A little harder on some of the people management skills. Having facilities that are relatively close one to the other is helpful because we tend to move a lot of materials from one site to the other. We do appliance repair and have job training, teach. It started as homeless men It was only men, not by design, but just those were the ones who were getting into the program to become appliance technicians. And that was that was in our DNA in 1991 when we were founded. So we now repair all the appliances in our main headquarters in Williston and then ship them to all the different sites, or truck them, I should say. The picture on the upper left is our facility in Barre, Vermont. We bought that building. It was an abandoned granite shed. Barre, for those who know, is a historic granite community, but has these wonderful old post and beam buildings, but many of them are really decrepit and run down and not doing well. So we were able to restore one of them through a major capital campaign project about 8 years ago. Last year, we completed a second capital campaign and bought our Wilson building, which is not pictured here, but the Burlington site is on the right. The Barre inside is on the lower middle. The Wilson site in this picture is on the upper left, and also in the warehouse picture on the right, showing the line of appliances. And that the lower left is our Hyde Park site.
You're talking about a photo that we can't see.
That's interesting.
Yeah, we're
so have you been not seeing any of these pictures that I've just been talking over through?
You have not advanced, apparently.
Isn't that curious? I'm going to stop sharing and try doing it again. Thanks for letting me know about that. I will.
Anyway, we all practiced.
Are you seeing my screen now? And
it's loading.
We see in writing, Tom Longstreth has started screen sharing, but we don't see slides yet.
Could you share Tom's slides? Are you able to do that?
That might take a quick second to switch over.
Well, why don't I make an announcement while you're doing that? Some people came after we started, so we're encouraging people to put their information in the chat. That is, where you're from, if you're working with an organization, and who you're hoping to network with. So if you're hoping to network with people in say Albany, the Albany area, to start a reuse enterprise, put that in the chat, because that's part of the networking we're going to be able to do today. We're also going to share everyone's email, name, and organization, and what their goals are from the registration, not your phone number or mailing address, unless you have objections. So also put in the chat if you don't want that to be shared.
Tom, why don't you proceed with your presentation, and we'll certainly make the slides available for everyone to see. But we do want to hear from you, even if we can't see the photos.
Great. Well, Neil, one thing maybe I'll just do one more test if I could. This may not be full screen, but I'll try the other way of sharing, just on the chance that gets us there. That's interesting that it worked when we did the test, but not. Are you seeing anything now?
The same thing, Tom. Just the writing. Yeah. Tom has started screen sharing.
Okay. Well, let's. So let me just run through this. So so we have some facilities that are not going to tell 1,000 words, but we have 4 of them. They really range in size from our Wilson facility, where we have close to 40,000 square feet and are about to move into another 10,000 square feet of the building we own, to the Hyde Park location that has only about 8,000 square feet. So they're really quite different. Space, I think, is both the final frontier, but it's also one of the most critical aspects of running a reuse organization. Is just, I feel like throughout Resources history, we were able to grow really dependent on acquiring relatively cheap space. And and just the right type of space. So I won't go into what I mean by that, but maybe that is true with many businesses, but I think it's particularly true with reuse operations. So the reuse supports for resource a huge number of job training programs, and overall we have both workforce development and we have workforce experience training programs. The difference we draw between these two is that workforce development leads to a job, very direct. We place students into a job at the end of the program. Usually those trainees are paid a stipend, whereas the workforce experience is also often sort of, it will not directly lead into a job, but will lead into additional training. It's sort of that first step in a ladder that is going to get people to become independent. The types of people we serve range from high school dropouts who are part of our youth build program to adults in our apprentice style or construction training programs, as well as individuals with disabilities. We have programs for blind and visually impaired youth. It really runs a gamut, and we're constantly trying to innovate and meet both employer needs and unemployed, low-income, disadvantaged people's needs in terms of training, and trying to combine those two, which isn't always so easy. But right now we just can't graduate enough trainees to meet the demand of employers. So it's really exciting to be placing so many trainees with good jobs.
It is indeed.
Sorry, there's a little, the lack of being able to share the pictures is throwing me off stride a little bit. So, I think I will just finish up with some more information about resource. We like Diane was describing, we have grown pretty rapidly. We were doubling, to having 25% annual growth for the first 10, 12 years, I think, as well. The last 5 or 6 years, we went through a tighter period, and financially we really struggled, chiefly because we didn't have the right space. The area we were in Burlington had gentrified. We were in 2 facilities that were across the street, one from the other, and this traffic had gone really bad, and so people were just avoiding the area. So that's where that space being so critical comes in, and we were able to finally find the right space after 5 years of searching, and moved into it in 2009. And it's just been great, and the growth has been very substantial ever since we got into this new space. So we're really excited for what we're going to continue to be able to do in terms of the environmental benefit of the work we do, the poverty relief. Most of our customers are low income, although we also have just thrifty people who like shopping reuse and are just looking for value. But we have a program we call our Essential Goods Program, where we give away vouchers to over 30 different nonprofit social service agencies, and they in turn give those vouchers to their clients. So it's a great way for us to collaborate with other nonprofits and support them without having to become social workers ourselves. Mm-hmm. And in a similar way, I think partnership and collaboration is sort of part of our DNA, where we seek to build affordable housing, but our goal is not to become the developer. There's lots of good housing developers out there. What we're trying to do is teach the skills. And so we build affordable housing as part of a job training program teaching construction skills. So I think I should stop there and just, what I didn't have time to prepare, but I could give people more information on is just the overall stats and outcomes. We maintain a social balance sheet where we try to catalog what we're doing, how we're impacting people. And so at some point I can pull that together and could share that for those who are interested. So I think I should wrap it up there and turn it back to Neil.
Yeah, Tom, we will be sharing your the slides, pictures, and these recordings will be shared many times over. I just want to say something. Both you and Diane emphasized space. we just did a podcast with Sarah Goff from Repurpose Project in Gainesville, Florida, and she described how they went from 1,000 to 3,000, and they just got a 100,000 square foot warehouse. So the growth seems to be generic in the industry, and it's nice to see all these companies growing so fast, employing people, paying taxes, etc. Okay, Tom, thank you. We're going to move to Linda McFarland from the Community Fund of the Capital Region. The next two presentations will be on local economic development areas, obviously in the New York State Capital Region. So Linda, please take it away, and thank you very much for your presence.
Thank you very much. Hi, I'm very happy to be here. I'm Linda McFarland, Executive Director of the Community Loan Fund of the Capital Region. Similar to Tom, my remote screen sharing isn't working, so my portion the background will show this lovely green photo of the beauty that we're trying to preserve.
Wonderful.
Okay. The Community Loan Fund, for those of you who aren't familiar with us, was started 35 years ago to promote financial inclusion for minorities, women, and people of low income. We provide training, flexible financing, and wraparound assistance for new business owners and nonprofit organizations located within the 11 counties of the Capital Region, which includes Warren and Washington counties. Environmental sustainability is a real target market in our lending area and a large part of our existing portfolio. We've provided financing for green projects like community gardens, energy efficiency updates to affordable housing units, and even to local farms. If you're interested in starting a reuse, repair, sustainable small business or nonprofit organization, the Community Loan Fund is here to help you. You may have heard of some of our borrowers, Honest Weight Food Co-op in Albany, Gem Farms, Cambridge Food Co-op, Capital Roots, Capital Car Share, Grow Amsterdam, Albany Community Land Trust, Schenectady Land Trust, just to name a few. What I wanted to do was highlight one small business and one nonprofit organization in this sector to give you an idea of really what it is that we're able to do. So first, I'd like to introduce you to Rewire Energy. Rewire is a minority-owned small business with a mission to empower residential, commercial, and municipal energy consumers by connecting them to energy efficiency services, along with clean, affordable, and renewable energy sources. To do that, they conduct energy audits, create personalized energy plans for your home or your business, and then contract with local providers to get energy upgrades installed. They also provide energy consultation for new property development. Rewire Energy came to the Community Loan Fund because they wanted to expand their energy business. They had been turned away by local banks or financial institutions who said that the business model was just too risky. For startup businesses or businesses that are in a not well-known business sector, this is quite often the response they get from local financial institutions. The Community Loan Fund looked at their plans and really saw promise, not just for Rewire Energy, but for the local communities and the planet as a whole. We provided Rewire Energy with a $50,000 term loan to purchase energy audit service equipment, which included a blower door, a gas detector, and a couple of other things. A portion of the loan was also used for marketing and for employee training. With that investment, Rewire was able to help hundreds of local residents convert to renewable energy sources. They also brought community solar to 250 student apartments in Albany's Pine Hills neighborhood. And today they're fine-tuning a software product that will help local companies game out energy strategies, taking into account equipment sourcing, costs, energy savings, cash flow, so that they can help more businesses move to renewable energy. We have also helped nonprofit organizations adopt green technology to mitigate their environmental impact and enhance their overall sustainability. These initiatives pay for themselves over time, but often they require a significant initial investment, and usually cash-strapped nonprofit organizations are not in a position to be able to cover those upfront costs. And that's where the Community Loan Fund comes in. For this example, I want to highlight St. Paul's Center, and we helped them finish an affordable housing project in Rensselaer County. As many of you know, affordable housing stock across our footprint has been dwindling for years, and that's particularly true in Rensselaer County. People living in poverty are either getting pushed out of the market or are living in substandard housing in unsafe neighborhoods. St. Paul's Center has been providing shelter for the homeless since 2006. Initially, they turned an empty church into a 19-bed facility to provide emergency assistance to women and children. They also founded a rapid rehousing program to help families get back into permanent housing. This year, they finished the Dyer Complex, which provides supportive housing to women and their children. The program includes financial assistance and on-site case management. Community Loan Fund assisted in this project by providing $292,000 in financing so St. Paul's Center could purchase and renovate a building on Washington Avenue in Rensselaer. The property was transformed from a 4-unit, 1 to 3 bedroom apartment building to a 4-unit building with 2 and 3 bedrooms each. And the renovation, what makes this particularly exciting, is it included several energy efficiency measures. So such as they installed solar panels, they installed heat pumps and solar assisted hot water tanks, which are called magic boxes, in the buildings. In one of the buildings, they are relying solely on solar panels, no fossil fuels at all. These updates are saving the organization significant amounts of money. For instance, the hot water tank costs just $40 per year to run. It's an amazing savings. Overall, their electric bill at this project is less than half of the electric bill at their shelter, which is about the same square footage. In addition, they're able to take advantage of rebates from National Grid, NYSERDA, and various manufacturers. Bottom line, that means there's more money in their budget devoted to their core mission, helping women and children find safe housing. So if you are an emerging entrepreneur who is looking to start a new business in the reuse and repair sector, here are some ways that we can assist you. The Community Loan Fund provides training. It's a key part of our organization. We have a full service training and technical assistance team who lead workshops on business development and help with one-on-one mentoring. Workshop topics include accounting, marketing, legal, human resources, and financials. All of our workshops are free. We also offer an 8-week business training program, and we run that 3 to 4 times a year. We have recordings of all of our trainings on our online platform called Edupreneur. We, in addition, provide financing, as was noted in the examples. We provide flexible financing to emerging entrepreneurs to start and grow their businesses. New entrepreneurs can borrow up to $25,000 for startup businesses, and established entrepreneurs 2 years or older can borrow up to $50,000. Nonprofit organizations, we lend up to $500,000. These loans can be used to acquire property or fix it up, to purchase equipment or inventory, assist with cash flow, create additional working capital, invest in green technology or sustainability. Our training and lending teams work with borrowers every step of the way, from building a business plan to helping with financial projections. Unlike more traditional lending institutions, our goal is less about making a profit and more about ensuring the businesses we lend to are successful. After we close a loan, our lending team sticks with our borrowers. We check in with them regularly to see how things are going. And we also are then able to help them with more advanced issues as their businesses grow, with things like contracts, taxes, state regulations, et cetera.
Two
And
more
we help
minutes,
them.
Linda.
Okay,
2 more minutes.
perfect. Thank you very much. One of the important things is how our organization is funded. We are not a depository institution. We are a loan fund. So we are funded through grants and investments from private individuals, faith-based organizations, and corporations. They make investments in the loan fund, and we pool that money and in turn loan that out to small businesses and nonprofit organizations. Most investments that are in the stock market skew toward large corporations. Our investors like that their money is going right back into the local communities. If you'd like to learn more about our products, services, and how to become an investor, you can reach out to us through the information being shared here or our website, www.mycommunityloanfund.org, or email info@mycommunityloanfund.org. Thank you.
Linda, that was marvelous. A good background and description of your services to budding entrepreneurs. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
And I'm sure we'll come back to you with questions.
Okay.
We are going to go to Danny Delaney from the Adirondack North Community Association.
North Country Association.
North Country, sorry. Danny, please go ahead.
No problem at all. It's a long title. It's fine.
Thank
Happens
you.
to the best of us.
I appreciate the waiver.
All right, great. Well, thank you so much for having me today. And I'm going after all these amazing presentations and folks doing such incredible work. And I hope that I can live up to some of that a little bit. So the ANCA is the Adirondack North Country Association. We serve the 14 northernmost counties in New York. So that's a pretty big region. It's bigger than the size of Massachusetts. And our vision is to build a new economy that works for all. Our mission is to build prosperity across northern New York, and we create and sustain wealth and value in local communities. So we do that through a lot of different angles. Our approach is very collaborative and focused on making sure that we're making sort of community informed, boots on the ground decisions that guide our work every day. We do that through a couple of key categories. So in food systems, we sort of encourage and catalyze robust local food systems that drive economic growth, reduce food insecurity, and contribute to positive community and health outcomes. In our energy economy work, we work on investments in resilient energy systems, including grid and transportation infrastructure, build on rural traditions of self-reliance, and while providing significant environmental and social benefits. And I'm going to talk about some actual projects. So that's just, doesn't sound like the grant jargon that we had to write in just a minute. And the entrepreneurial economy. So we focus on a vibrant entrepreneurial ecosystem that creates jobs and reduces inequality and keeps and attracts new and diverse generations. So, and the food system side of things, we're really focused on like, how do we make sure that our farm businesses, agricultural businesses are viable businesses, not just, a cute farm that everybody wants to go to. It's like, how do we make sure that that's profitable for them, an asset to the community, and that is something that can sustain itself long-term. We work at a systems level in that, we're not helping people with a grazing plan or something like that. On the energy economy, we have a lot of experience sort of going into municipalities and talking to them about their clean energy options. Should they put in LED streetlights? How do they decide if a solar farm is the right fit for them? How do they wade through those questions? That kind of thing. And then we work a lot in transitioning towards working a little bit more towards sort of workforce development in the clean energy sector as well, aggregated clean energy resources. And I can't speak to that as thoroughly. I think Annie, one of our other teammates, is on the phone and probably could answer better questions if they're specific to that program area. And then in the entrepreneurial economy, we do a whole host of things, but I'll just point out like the two things that are probably the easiest to digest in a quick moment, and which will be sort of the point of, or sort of more outlined in the next slides. But one is Adirondack Buyer Days, which we've done for over 30 years. So if somebody is sort of a maker in their garage and wants to turn that into a sort of viable business for them and their family, a family sustaining income, to help them get to retail and wholesale. So if you're just making something, you've been doing craft fairs and you're getting some money on the side, but you want to make that into something bigger and you want to sell to an actual retail shop and grow in that way. We've been helping with Adirondack Buyer Days to get people ready for that wholesale market, both through training and this showcase for over 30 years. Lauren is also on the line who could talk more about that if anybody has questions about that. We work in the Center for Businesses in Transition. So that's, let's say it's reusing old businesses. So if folks are retiring from their businesses or thinking about transitioning, developing a coalition across the whole North Country to ensure that they have the free and low cost resources to do that, and that we keep those businesses in our communities alive and well. And we do a number of other things sort of in that entrepreneurial economy, like I said, I'll talk about in just a moment. But those are our three sort of overarching program areas. The Center for Businesses in Transition, I'm just going to make a quick point about this, and this is the program I sort of run at ANCA, or help try to sort of coalesce with all these other organizations, is a lot of what we try to do is take other organizations that are within our sort of regional footprint, help make sure that they are set up to share resources together, to work in coalition, and to sort of move forward with collaboration, right? And so these are all the organizations that work with us for the Center for Businesses in Transition. We have community liaisons in their offices. And I just want to say that's, a huge part of the model that we take on through our organization is sort of a hub and spoke model, where we're adding capacity to other economic development organizations and working as much as we can sort of with our communities, with what our community needs, that sort of community informed work, boots on the ground strategies to create and sustain well. And so one of the things that we were talking about this morning with our staff was, what are some of the different programs, options, resources that might be the most useful for this particular audience that we can bring to the table. I talked a little bit about Adirondack Buyer Days as well. So if somebody's starting a business and they want to sort of, and it maybe has a reuse or repair component, but they want to sort of bring it to that next level and find some way to get it into a wholesale market, that's a great resource for them. So we have a farm and food systems map online as well. And I think all of these will be shared with you afterwards that sort of outlines all of the different sort of agricultural food farm stand kind of things throughout the North Country. And if you have some that aren't on there, please feel free to let us know. We would love to add them on. We also have a maker and hackerspace map and a number of different resources online about maker, hackerspaces, Fix-It programs that are happening throughout the North Country. We try to keep that map updated as people let us know about that. And I'll say the maker hackerspace thing, that's an example where ANCA's skill set is not necessarily being the expert in like how to do a Fix-It space, right? But to make sure that different voices get a voice, different community members or constituents get a voice in that same room and can come together and cross-pollinate ideas. And so a few years ago, we had a great sort of forum on makerspaces and hackerspaces and what that could look like in the North Country. Got a lot of people in the room and a bunch of, projects sort of developed out of that. So we focus a lot on sort of collaboration and catalyzing other smaller projects and getting folks to see, what other assets are already happening, how can we utilize those to move forward across the North Country. I know the presenter right before me was talking about sort of energy audits and other sort of energy services for small businesses. We do offer energy audits and support as well as residential and for other folks as well. We also have a local crowdfunding campaign. So if you have a business that you are thinking about starting or you're just getting started but you need a $3,000 thing, right? Like something to get you started. Say you need a $3,000 shredding machine. That may not be it. I'm just making something up. But we can do a local crowdfunding campaign for you, work with you to get it up and going. And that interest, instead of going to sort of a Kickstarter or some national company, would stay locally and be recycled back into that this space here. And we have a lot of the folks who sort of donate to those Ignite campaigns are folks who just kind of donate to a lot of them because they care about local businesses being able to start up and that kind of thing. We also, we are the sort of house for Adirondack Diversity Initiative. So focusing on diversity, equity, inclusion in the North Country in the Adirondack Park. And so they live here in our office and provide all sorts of different sort of programs, tools, resources, advocacy, policy making for making sure that we have a more welcoming, inclusive, belonging area where all people feel as though they are welcome and included in our region. So I just wanted, I think one of the things that Anka can bring to the table in this conversation is that because we really, really care about businesses who have those sort of triple bottom line concepts, or you have something that might be a nonprofit, it might be a for-profit business, you're kind of straddling that line between, what kinds of project those things are. We really want to hear about those kind of projects. There's a few projects that we have helped sort of get off the ground that started as nonprofits and then now are sort of for-profit businesses. There are other projects that are for-profit businesses, but they have a really deep community benefit that we might be able to be the fiscal sponsor for a grant on, right? So things that have that sort of food system, energy economy, or just really sort of big community impact. We have a staff of, 17 people who really are invested in those kind of projects and want to sort of help catalyze those kind of businesses. And we are really here to listen and help strategize and develop a work plan. We're not going to sit down and write a business plan with you. We'll send you over to the SBDC. We're great partners with them. We work really well together. But when it comes to those sort of like pieces that are a little for-profit, a little nonprofit, and kind of navigating that space, we can be a huge resource in thinking that through and coming up with creative ways to get over some of the barriers that you might face there. The other big thing that we, are really excited about, if you are thinking about starting a business, or you have a business already started in this space or any other space, but you want to make sure that some of those values that you have about making sure that it's people-centered, that it's good for the environment, that your values can show up in the same way through your business structure. I would also recommend that if there's a few of you thinking about that business at the same time, that thinking about becoming a worker cooperative may be a good thing to do. And we sort of serve as the de facto place-based worker development, worker cooperative economic development organization in the North Country. And so what that means is that you're an independent business whose workers, like the folks that are at your business, own the business and have a share in the decision making. And we're really proud to announce the first, sorry, I missed the slide there, but the first worker-owned nonprofit in the North Country just transitioned. So Ward Lumber in both Jay and Malone, saving 45, or now has 45 worker owners. And it's just a really neat business model that can sort of help sort of live your values through a business model. And we have lots of resources and folks to help you with that if that's something you're interested in. But I don't want to get too off topic. And then the other thing I just want to point out.
2 more minutes, Donnie. 2 more minutes.
Oh, I got this in a minute. We're good.
Okay, thank you.
Is we just got a really big grant for the Center for Pandemic Response. If you do have an established business, you've already got to sort of that phase in your pipeline, please do reach out to us, because starting in the fall, we're going to have a number of resources that we can deploy in September, including all of them free or low cost, to have you look through your profit and loss statements. Where are you losing money? Where can you gain money? Do you want to put together a succession plan? How do you engage your employees more? How do you get them ready for ownership? How do you start having employees? What does that look like if you don't have employees now? Get an energy audit of your business, sign up for free or low cost improvements, streamline your distribution processes, make your own food hub. I was supposed to talk about those 2 other pictures, but that's okay. And if you have more questions about the work that we do and anything that we might be able to help you with, we're excited to have those conversations and are here to support you.
Well, thank you again. I can't. This is the first reuse webinar I've been in where we have model companies and model programs to finance them. So this is terrific, and it's very appropriate that the next speaker, Ellen Tabiri, is from Broome. Is it Broome Inspired or Broome Inspiration?
It's actually Inspire Broome.
Inspire Broome, and
Inspire Broome, yes.
I must say, I believe that Brenda Platt is on this call. She's my colleague at the Institute for Local Self-Reliance, and years ago, one of her first projects was to help kill an incinerator with Paul Connett, of course, and others in Binghamton. So now we're doing something positive, and it's wonderful to see you. And please let us know what you're trying to do.
Well, wonderful to see you too, Neil. And a lot of what this is born of was based on the wonderful Dr. Paul Connett.
Yes,
So,
indeed.
so my name is Ellen Tuberry. I am a member of Inspire Broome. So what's Inspire Broome? So we just were established in February 2021. And our mission is to achieve safe development for Endicott and Broome County that inspires collaboration and progress for today and tomorrow. And the reason why we exist, I thought I would give people an idea of, why we are pursuing what we're pursuing. Inspire Broome is made up of only a few people. There's only 4 or 5 people, but it was born out of No Burn Broome. And No Burn Broome was concerned residents who united in February of last year to oppose the Sun-Geo battery recycling incinerator facility in Endicott. Endicott, New York is in Broome County in the southern tier. Has a long history of being very prosperous, but yet environmentally disastrous industry in Endicott, which led to economic and population decline because we lost the Endicott Johnson Shoe Factory and IBM Corporation over time. Both of those companies were born in Endicott. And so after we defeated the incinerator this past February, where we were saying no to polluting industry, a few of us were so excited that we had actually beat the people that were trying to do this. We wanted to pivot to say yes to safe economic development. So of course, this was Paul's idea, the Inspire Broome logo, based on the mythical, majestic phoenix reborn from the ashes of its demise, meaning Endicott's demise, is to start a new long life. So what does Inspire Broome do? We started off brainstorming ideas for safe economic development and quickly pulled in some key Broome County and actually Tioga County entities. Chris Berger of Network for Sustainable Environment, Network for Sustainable Tomorrow, and he's on the call today. And people from BOCES, people from Binghamton University. One of the first things we started doing was sharing resources and knowledge on repair, reuse, recycle, compost, redesign. We're calling it the 4 R's or the 5 R's. Our first significant project is this reuse and repair center concept. Of course, we were inspired by Dr. Paul Connett, who has been traveling the world for 30 years with his wife, Ellen, defeating incinerators. I think they've defeated something like 80 incinerators. He has this book, Zero Waste Solution, 10 Steps to Zero Waste, one of which is a repair and reuse center. So a combination of of Paul's wisdom, as well as all the wonderful artisanship in Endicott since its inception, like shoe repair, jewelry repair, you name it. We had been saying no to unsafe economic development. So this was a way for us to say yes to safe economic development. So why repair and reuse in Endicott? And people have touched on this, to provide affordable alternatives to purchase of new goods, especially for the economically struggling segments of our community that unfortunately has grown over time because of some of the reasons that I had mentioned in the previous slide. So what we want to do is attract a core set of skilled craftspeople in areas of shoe repair, seamstress, furniture repair, cleaning and restoration, appliance repair, computer and small electronics repair. We want to allow for creation of training and apprenticeship programs for these skills. I think it was Neil that said, some of these people are really, the people that are really struggling. We want them to be able to have, if they're interested, have these skills and hopefully fill these niche areas that unfortunately were, they used to be very, very prevalent, but they're falling by the wayside. We want to facilitate creation of jobs through hands-on training and formal educational channels, volunteerism, and most importantly, community development. How are we going to do this? Well, we are in the beginning stages of reuse and repair, and there's been a lot of information that I've gleaned from this presentation today, from the session today. We don't live in the North Country or the Adirondack or the Albany area, but we have been seeking out knowledge as much as we can. Diane Cohen, who spoke first today, her impressive Finger Lakes reuse operation. We are so excited about what she does, because she lives closest to us we've seen it working. I actually haven't myself. I just moved from the Massachusetts area back to my hometown of Endicott last week. So I want to go up to the Finger Lakes Reuse Center and check it out. We also, a couple of us attended that April 7th webinar that Tracy had mentioned, that of reuse and repair. That also was a very, very good resource. And then just really getting to the point where we're trying to understand the key items that we need to pursue. And through our meetings with Chris of Nest and BOCES and Cornell Cooperative Extension of Binghamton, Binghamton University, just trying to learn as much as we can about this area. We know that we want to be a 501c3. We need a comprehensive business plan. We need supporters. We need funding, not only from grants, but from generous donors. So I'm going to focus on number 2. That's really where we are. We're really in the beginning stages, but writing the business plan using Diane's comprehensive template that she had mentioned that's on the Finger Lakes Reuse website. And boy, is it comprehensive. It's a wonderful template. It's taking us a good while, but we also understand we have to come up with a good business plan to be able to get those supporters and stakeholders to be interested in what we're doing. We also, people might say we're exploring the cart before the horse, but we're also looking at available buildings in Endicott. A couple of our teammates actually found a building that we absolutely love. It's actually an old school. And we're just trying to envision what we want. Granted, we're not going to rent it yet or anything, but we want to be able to envision what it is that we want to do, because we hear from these various places, it's like, okay, do we want to do repair? Absolutely. And job training and skill sharing. Do we want to sell clothing? Do we want to do business building materials? I personally love the idea of deconstruction and giving away or selling building materials, and start small in a big space, start small in a small space. I think some people really have started small in a small space, as Diane Cohen has, and you build on over time. That's the picture I'm leaving you with here. I don't know even if you can see it, but it's a school right around the corner from our, right around the corner from our main Washington Avenue in Endicott. It's a wonderful school that's being renovated, and it's for lease. And we hope to be able to have a reuse repair center. Granted, we have a ton of work to do. A lot of the resources that you all have been hearing about over this past hour, I think will be very helpful to people. Whether or not it ends up being helpful to us in Broome County, that's okay, because I think we'll be able to get some traction once we get our business plan in good shape. Yep. So that's it for me.
Well, thank you so much, Ellen. Brenda sent me a little note on the chat. I wanted to give credit to NYPIRG and Clean Water Action. Brenda worked for the Institute, Hank Cole worked for Clean Water Action, and of course, Larry Shapiro worked for NYPIRG. And they were a wonderful little hit team, going around the country killing incinerators. So I wanted to give everybody credit. And I think, Ellen, you really described where you're at, and this workshop probably was designed with you in mind to connect you to these incredible resources.
Before you go on.
Oh, please, Tracy, I was just going to turn it over for you to see if you had anything.
Abby's going to get a picture of everyone here. So if you don't have any objections and you're able, please turn on your camera, and Abby will get a picture so that we can show who came. And if you have, I've copied the chat and I can read some questions, but if you have other questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat, and we can let we're way late we've taken a lot of time, but anyway, I mean, it's been great so far, but we want to get to questions. So please turn on your camera just momentarily so that we can get a screenshot.
All right, and Tracy, did you want to lead with the questions?
Yes, I'm going to go to the questions, but if anyone has additional questions, you can put them in the chat and I will see them. Whoops, so Abby, are you okay with the photo?
Yes, everyone hold that thought for perhaps the next 20 seconds. And thank you so much for your patience. Snipping process is a wee bit, it takes just a moment. So thank you again for your patience.
So we have a lot of, I'll just mention, we have a lot of good networking going on in the chat. And
Yes.
if you weren't able to network with those you want to, you can also send me an email by tracy.frisch@gmail, and I will help get the word out that you are looking.
Yes, and if I could mention an aside to Ellen, as you develop the business plan, Ellen, we're very happy to take a look at it and give you pointers, although you're probably following a very comprehensive program, which you already mentioned that Diane has put together.
Diane Cohen and her team are amazing. And it's not easy, but it shouldn't be, right? It should be comprehensive so that you can tell your best story and get your funding that you need.
Yes, and I must tell you, the level of sharing among these social enterprises, first of all, it's logical because no one's if you're 100 miles away, you're not competing with anyone. But I've seen groups like the Reuse, Second Chance in Baltimore, working very closely with the forklift outside of DC. It's just a wonderful exchange of information. And I'll, has the pictures been taken, Abby? Are we all set?
Yes, thank you so much, everyone.
Okay, I was just going to say that one highlight for me was when I brought Dan Knapp and Mary Lou Vanderventer from Urban Ore, the classic iconic company, over to Community Forklift in Prince George's County. And I just sat back and listened to these four professionals, Ruth and Nancy from Community Forklift, exchange ideas on how to do this and how to do that. It was like an encyclopedia of reuse. So the sharing that we're seeing today is actually quite typical of this industry, which is a wonderful thing. All right, Tracy, over to you for questions.
So the first question comes from James McLaughlin. Does reuse or any other, or I guess Finger Lakes Reuse compete in quotes with local organizations like Goodwill? Do they welcome you or choose not to collaborate? This can be an issue around major metropolitan areas, I think, but I'm very interested in your thoughts.
Thanks. I was told that there's a buzz when I'm speaking. Is it bad?
Yes.
A little bit. Sorry, I don't know what to do about it.
Thing.
I think your information is important enough and great enough that we certainly will push through it. So thank you so much.
You're great.
Yeah, so people ask that a lot, you know, are you competing in some way? I've had lunch with the major of our local Salvation Army. They're probably our largest similar type of organization. I've encouraged the executive director of Habitat for Humanity to open up a restore. There's plenty of material to go around. There is so much out there. We have a Thrifty Shopper Rescue Mission has moved an outlet in as well. As far as I know, they're all thriving. I know we all have been completely overwhelmed with donations. We actually, for the first time ever, we paused, well, it's the second time because we did it during COVID. We paused our donations for the month of June because the volumes were so crazy. So, and we've got nearly 600 pallets of backlog. So we, the staff, out of respect for the staff, we said, hold on. And so, you know, I think I hear the competition question and I sort of wonder, not being born a capitalist, but, you know, I think that we're here working. Isn't the spirit of competition what this country's founded on, and for healthier, more efficient? So I don't really worry too much about us, you know, competing or, and then I guess Neil, I think, mentioned the St. Vincent de Paul in Eugene, Oregon. Eugene, Oregon is a county with about 350,000 people, and it's, you know, it's in a Western state, so it's geographically, it's fairly big. But in and around the city of Eugene, they have at least 14 St. Vinny's thrift stores. They're big, and there's also 9 Goodwills in that market. So none of us are even close. And I think we can all open 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 reuse centers in our communities and still not be even close to saturating the market.
Let me just add a quick note about St. Vincent's in Lane County. They not only supply the 14 thrift stores in their county, Lane County, but they ship materials as far north as Portland, Oregon, and as far south as San Francisco. I think that's an 800-mile spread. So their repaired products are being sent to thrift stores throughout that 800-mile.
I'm not sure that that's, I don't want to argue, but I think that their workers down in California are refurbishing mattresses.
Oh, no, yes, they're doing that, but they were also shipping other goods to the San Francisco market. But
yeah, well, they've got the St. Vinny's network.
Yeah, but Diane, I did want to mention, and Diane mentioned, and it's important, they run 3 mattress recycling, 2 mattress recycling and 1 mattress refurbishing operations. So they're pretty sophisticated and they're terrific at logistics. A lot to learn from them, as obviously many of us have done so already.
Thank you. What about Tom? Do you have any comments on that question?
Yeah, resource, we have a Habitat for Humanity has a couple locations near us, and as does Goodwill Industries. We were here first, and then they moved in. And in fact, we did feel the competition when we were in downtown Burlington, in a spot that was just not as convenient. It was impacting us, the arrival of this additional competition. When we moved to Williston, our current location, it took a year, but the sales here have really grown. So, it is absolutely competition, and there's, but it's a good type of competition, as Diane was saying. It helps us all become more efficient, focus on customer service, and serve customers better, so that they can, it all works better. I should say that we are about a quarter mile from Goodwill at our Wilson site, and we're about 2 miles from Habitat. And I think some of our customers actually find that helpful, because they can hit all 3 of us in a easy, quick drive. And that, if they're looking for a specific size window or a specific size door or a particular couch, there's a good chance that at one of the 3 of us, they will find it. And so I think that's a helpful aspect. So I'll just leave it there.
Okay, I guess I need to move on to another question. James has been asking a lot of good questions. Which is the best route, for-profit or nonprofit? Is there a tipping point or business function that tips the scale on for-profit or not-for-profit?
I have an opinion. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it depends on what your resources are. And for us, starting up the 501c3 business model, they're all businesses, right? And not-for-profit doesn't mean you can't make a profit. It means that the volunteer board of directors cannot profit off the activities of your organization. And then the IRS wants you to stay within your mission. Any other revenues that are generated outside your mission then are taxable. So it does give you a small advantage, and it also opens you up to some seed funding, which I think would be harder to find through other economic development channels. Maybe Danny might, or someone else in economic development might have a different opinion about that. But so I think looking around at what your local support looks like, and you could even make your business plan and say, we're not sure how we should incorporate. What do you think? I believe very much when you're at startup to ask as many people as early as possible, because they're now engaged before you even open the doors. And that sense of ownership carries forward in a powerful way. It was very, very powerful for us.
Wow. Yeah, that's a great idea. That's a great recommendation. Tom, do you have any comments on this?
I think a lot depends on what your purpose is. And, ultimately, if, so much of what Resource does is helping low-income people out of poverty, either through job training or by giving them essential goods, building materials, building affordable housing, weatherizing homes. Those things are not profitable usually in of themselves. We can figure out how to piece together government grants, earned revenue, fee for service type work from a variety of sources and make it all work. But the nonprofit model is definitely critical for us, because the reuse stores generate a revenue, but they're not really generating any sort of substantial revenue that would cover these other components. So the nonprofit model is pretty important for us. So, but I think it really depends on what you're trying to do. If you're more narrowly focused on reuse of things and making money, then a for-profit model is got to be the ticket for you.
I could add a couple of things. First of all, Brenda put in the chat just recently that she and her colleagues have done work on this issue of for-profit, nonprofit, and she put in a link for further information on that.
And I'll send that to people.
Yes.
I'll send
Okay.
that.
The other thing I wanted to mention on the ownership, Urban Ore, another iconic program going back to the 70s, I believe, they are a for-profit and they've been operating quite well and have expanded, much like the organizations we heard today from Tom and Diane. But Dan and Mary Lou are getting older, and they just negotiated a sale of Urban Ore to their 30 or 35 workers, and they're in the middle of a transition to a for-profit corporation to a worker, still for-profit, but a worker-owned and controlled organization. So the ownership models are pretty diverse, and there are lots of alternatives to explore.
So
I just want to mention a note that Stephanie Compton from Baltimore is interested in mattress recycling, and we'll follow up with her. And the best thing we'll do is connect her with the St. Vincent de Paul people, who are the real pros for nonprofit mattress processing. Tracy, back to you for the next question.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any real pressing questions. If people have questions that have not been addressed, if you maybe want to raise your hand and ask them succinctly. One question was, is there a network of reusers one can tap into to build the business plan? And I think Diane, the person who asked that, may have come a little late or something, but Diane Cohen's organization has a template to help other reusers create a business plan.
Yeah, I could add to that, if it's a specialty business plan, such as electronic scrap or mattresses or building deconstruction, we can connect you to people who have gone through this on both the for-profit and nonprofit side to help build a business plan for a specialty, such as, let's say, building deconstruction, as opposed to a general reuse store, which has a different dynamic. So
yes, and all the presenters, including Neil, will have their contact information shared. I'll send that out this week.
And we look forward to hearing from people, because we're here to do follow-up. These webinars are introductory statements, and we're all of us here to do follow-up assistance to local groups that want to move forward in any of these areas of reuse, repair, and economic development.
There's just been a slew of more comments and questions, and I see Chris Berger has his hand raised. I'll get to you in a moment, but there was a pre-existing question. Is it better to have a centralized facility or multiple satellites? Diane or Tom, you want to address that? You both have multiple facilities.
Yeah, I'll jump in faster with the draw on the mute button, but I think that people don't want to travel too far. Transportation is a huge cost. So in a rural area, I think that having a spread apart site is probably more helpful to customers. Reuse donors especially are not going to go too far out of their way to come to you if the dump is closer and more convenient. And so I do think that having a scattered site is helpful in keeping people shopping near where they live, and people, in terms of employing people as well. There are some tipping points, and scale matters, I think. So it's not a simple equation. I don't have a magic number for what the best size is in any given geographic area, but I do think that some sort of scattered is helpful.
Yeah, we've been talking about some sort of like reuse ecosystem that's a mix of all sorts. I mean, in Tompkins County, our cooperative extension publishes an updated guide every year called the reuse trail map or something like that. But there's 40 businesses in Tompkins County, for-profit, nonprofit, that handle used materials. So, but the thing that like keeps me at it is the volume, this invisible volume that's out there. So I think start where you can, Ellen. I think you're smart to look at a facility and try to work your plan around that, because it's really hard to just make an abstract business plan without knowing the facility. Facility can inform what types of operations you can do, keeping something visible. In Tompkins County, where there's 100,000 people, we have 2 locations that are within 5 miles of each other. We expect probably to have 5 or 6 by the time we're done, and they can be smaller, but we want to have that outlet, that space for exchange of materials.
I could also say for Ellen in Binghamton that getting started in an old school building could have an advantage in that expansion could be made easier. You could expand without moving, and moving a reuse store is you do not want to do, as I've heard from many of my friends who've done that. I see that next was Chris Berger. Hi, Chris. It's been a while. Good to see you.
Yes, it has. I was going to start out with a great shout out to you, Neil, and just to share that actually Neil was a part of the effort to stop a previous incinerator, Ellen's incinerator. She was referring to a more recent one that was, quote, a recycling incinerator for batteries. Yeah, we got to put the quotes around it because it was just a terrible technology. But our community faced a mass burn incinerator back in the 80s.
Yeah, Chris,
and Neil was a part of that effort to stop it.
Yeah, we mentioned that as part of our history.
Yes, oh, great, should be. Anyway, my question was actually a real quick one and basic one. I was starting to type it out before it was said, well, just raise your hand. So it had to do with the nonprofit and cooperative, worker cooperatives. I'm a firm believer in worker cooperatives, but I was just curious of whether you could have a worker cooperative nonprofit or
I think you can. I'm not a lawyer, but I have heard of that type of business setup before. But we can start asking people and finding out. I'm inclined to say that that's the answer, but it's not an authoritative answer.
Okay.
I have a little more information on that.
Good to see you again.
Great, Danny.
So most of the time organizations like that are called worker self-directed nonprofits. And the Democracy at Work Institute, which is a national collaborative of co-op developers, just put out a guidebook about sort of like how to transition or start up as that kind of entity. And I'm happy to send that along. I'll send it along to be included in the resources post this event.
Wonderful.
I
have more questions coming in.
I see a quick question that I could help answer. James McLaughlin asked about how much space is needed for a mattress plant. I would say around 15,000 square feet, and you'd probably start with 10 to 12 workers. But again, we have technicians like St. Vincent's who can give us the exact answer.
Okay, we have other questions about sizing. What sort of semi-permanent facility would you recommend for the tropics? That is a Hawaiian question.
Well, I could respond to that by saying that we just did a several reuse webinars, and the two groups to get in contact with is Recycle Hawaii. The woman's name is Christine Kubat, Kubat. And the other group is Zero Waste Summit, and her name is Jennifer Navarra. And I will get those email addresses to Tracy momentarily.
Okay, thank you.
They're very well versed in reuse operations in Hawaii.
It looks like the other questions are kind of similar about sizing. So are there any other questions? If you want to raise your hand and ask a question, we have like no minutes left, but we will take 1 or 2 more questions. And otherwise, we'll be sending you resources and encouraging you to network with others locally and start planning, because this is something that is really possible to do. And I don't see any hands. Is that correct? So,
Well, I want to,
Yeah, this is Kamiko. I just had a quick question. There was a lot of information that was shared in the chat. I clicked the save chat feature on Zoom, which is those three little dots. I always forget where it goes, and if it goes, it disappears. But can you share the chat too when you send the video?
I will share the chat and take out anything that's irrelevant. Like, yes, we will share the chat.
Oh, super. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for coming and all the wonderful information and resources. I mean, this is really great.
This was awesome. Can we do this regularly? I feel like I'm with my tribe and it feels so good.
Okay, who said that?
It's Kamiko Link from
You want to
EPA
help
Research.
organize the next one?
I'd be happy to.
Okay, well, email me and we can figure out a topic.
Okay.
well, we'd be very happy to do this or another one related topic on economic development and recycling. Just let us know. We'd love to bring folks together and have great sharing such as this webinar.
Well, you guys are so good at it. Thank you.
Thank you for participating. The speakers and the questions were terrific, and we thank you. And this will be another book in our library of reuse across the country.
So with that, I think we're going to say farewell. If anyone wants to put a word in the chat, you're welcome to do so. But otherwise, be in touch. We'll send out a list of everyone, and I'll send out something saying, please send me any objections if you don't want your information shared. And then we'll send it out. Okay.
And thanks everyone for all the amazing work that you're doing.
Be
And
well, everybody.
we're going to
Everyone.
check in with you in a year and see if there's any new operations under development. Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Bye now.
Bye.